War pugs. You guys know one thing about me. There's very few things that I really, really, really. It went without saying at all. Once this was released, this was something on my top priority to see and just enjoy with you guys. So this is Warrior Tier has been awesome to me. I frequently talk to their audio video guy. He has given me a lot of tips, of which I'm still trying to get a lot of things put in place. We talk at least once or twice a week, and it's always nice to see what they're doing. It's always great stuff. And I gotta tell you guys, the whole thing that they produce is when I Hi, Sean. I've been running like a fool. It has been what it is today. But when I look at the lore videos I make, I compare myself to like Baltimore. I compare myself to Warrior Tier. I compare myself to other creators. And while Baltimore fills a certain niche, and I say that he is the best lore person, period, flat out, for all of 40K, Warrior Tier doesn't make lore videos. Warrior Tier makes art. And that is all I got to say about that. Fan uploaded, Mr. Galaxy Wide? Really? Fan uploaded. It's up? Sweet! Well, I already know what to look for next. Who the hell is Steve Jobs? I do not know, Baron. I do not know who Steve Jobs is. But this is something I always look forward to. I had an idea of what was being written about before in my conversations. But at the same time, I don't care what I'm waiting for. All I know is I'm just like, I've been waiting for this to come out ever since I, knew the subject matter. I'm a big fan of timelines. I'm a big fan of, understanding the lore, understanding time periods, understanding something like that. And I have always kind of drifted towards those things myself. Now, my own style of delivering lore is, if you guys have seen anything on the lore channel, blastingly different than Warrior Tiers. But, God, I wish I could put out something to the effect that they have with... I mean, God, the first Nurgle video weirded me out so bad, it was not even funny. It was excellent, okay? They are continuing to go through the Chaos Gods. I hope they get back to that sooner or later. But today we're going to be checking... Who is my wife that's trying to come to the door? Is that my wife? No. But today we're going to be checking out the second installment that they have with Trays in the Infinite being the pilot of the whole of the episode. I can't wait to see what this is going to be, because this is about the Segmentum Obscurus. Guys, a lot of stuff has happened there, of course. I can't wait to see how they actually approach this. It's not a line, it's a circle. That's what clocks around the world. Nice. Okay, Ronnie, I get it. Why were you in the sleep zone? What do you mean, why was I in the sleep zone? I have no idea. But, guys, I have been rambling. And I do apologize for that. Mainly because today I have been... it has been a long day. But let's settle back, alright? Let's settle back. Let's enjoy some time. It's time for some Warrior Tier. Segmentum Obscurus by Trays in the Infinite. Let's go. William.
My lord, I
I
apologize
love
for
this
the interruption.
already.
I have found the map you requested.
Thank you, Mason.
Well, if it is not too forward, Lord Drazen, may I ask why you require such a rare human map?
Because, Mason, this map shows differences in comparison to our ancient Necron star systems.
Oh, it is most impressive, my lord, but seems rather complicated.
What's going on,
If only
Ripoff?
your uncle were here. He understood much of human colonization. Let me show you, Mason.
Troy, thank you. Just think, with the power of AI, Matt Ward can send for Ultramarines at 10 times the speed. God. Nice. Okay, that's cool. That is so nice.
This galaxy is a tableau of stories. Some of these stories are long finished, their authors being mere dust on the papyrus of time, while some are still being written. Many have been lost to time, and it falls to us to be the librarians of our galaxy. I have spent eons collecting, saving, and cataloging these stories. I would like to clarify that this is a tour of this galaxy according to Imperial cartography.
I have liked the voice of Trazen from the first time I heard it. It makes him sound like the kind of guy you wouldn't expect dickish behavior from, but I expect it nonetheless, guys. I expect it nonetheless. What Primarch will allow the city to land in Westeros? Curs.
Not according to Necron cartography. Remember that, as it will be important. This is a tour of the Segmentum Obscurus.
All right, Golden.
In the galactic northeast, there is a small world with much importance. The rains never stop falling here. Its orderly streets are full of life. The prayers of mankind blast out from the vox units placed on the streets and echo through the crowds. This world is lit by the fires of faith. This world is Dimamar. It is a cardinal world.
I know, William, doesn't he?
Its importance to the ecclesiarchy cannot be understated. It churns out soldiers and blessings in equal measure, and the temples and monuments are never empty or silent. I have a whole shelf of literature from Dimamar.
Acquired extremely honestly. We know it was acquired in the most polite, non-invasive, non-stealing manner possible.
This far-flung world raised its head from the blood-choked mire of the Horus heresy and founded the Confederation of Light. This small, faraway world created a doctrine, a theory that I have always been fond of. The preachers of the world believed that the Emperor's sacrifice was to be held as an example. This was less than popular with the gold-clad ecclesiarchs who ruled the temple of the Savior Emperor. These priests used the idea of the Emperor to further their own selfish gains. It is here that a character with a head worthy of display appeared, Sebastian Thor. The Confederation of Light was ultimately deemed a heretical organization. Forces were mobilized to Dimamar, and the butcher's work began. It did not take long for the world to be culled, but a few chosen believers escaped. Ultimately, the Confederation of Light was all but destroyed, until, in dramatic human fashion, the Age of Apostasy began, and the Confederation of Light re-emerged, led by none other than the noble, selfless hero, Sebastian Thor. He declared that one of the greatest and most important Imperial leaders was a heretic.
Yep.
And I admit, I do not know if he was or not. But under Goj Vandaya's leadership, the corruption and stupidity were almost unparalleled.
True. If you want a summation of the Age of Apostasy, the beginnings of Imperial Faith, the beginning of the Sisters of Battle video on my lore channel goes through that pretty well.
In a perfect twist of fate, Vandaya sent a group known as the Frateris Templar, a terrible name, to kill Thor. Thor rallied billions to his side. Even Adeptus Astartes and Vandaya himself was ultimately killed. Thor and the Order were recognized by both the Imperium and the Ecclesiarchy. Ultimately, the Confederation was absorbed into the Adeptus Ministorum, and Thor was made an Ecclesiarch. Atop the mountain, Gren's Peak, you can still see Sebastian Thor's monument, blade held high in stoic rebellion, watching over his world for eternity. And while it is still ongoing, that is the story of Dimamar, a faraway world that proves the age-old theory. Even the smallest beings can affect the greatest changes.
Yep. Yeah. Let's, this is gonna be fun.
Far to the galactic north of our galaxy lay the Halo stars. The stars have many names: the Wanderer's Call, the Peratech Veil, the Shroud of Vorathrax, all names for the same thing. Draped in a galactic fog that covers over 200,000 light-years, the stars are the stage for unknown tales.
Usually horrifying, by the way.
Kingdoms and worlds beyond count. This ancient formation of stars is thought to be the oldest in all of the galaxy. Many in the Imperium have not ventured out as far as the Halo stars, and the majority of those who have set off to this mysterious area have never returned.
Truth?
The Halo stars are thought, by some, to be the edge of the known galaxy, as traveling past this formation of stars leads one into the endless void. Found here are the traces of age-old civilizations, their thrones having sat empty for millions of years. The kings who reigned here are unknown, their courts now silent, haunted ruins, buried beneath the sands for millennia.
So the ghoul stars in Segmentum, in Segmentum Ultima, those basically the ghoul stars are known for having horrific Xenos, for the most part, and for the fact that people just flat out die there. The Halo stars have pretty much the same reputation, although not as severe. Okay. And Troy Neenan says, and within the Halo stars is the last McDonald's. Well, you can fucking try to get there, but the chances of you coming back from that are slim. Just slim. The Halo stars are the Ghoul stars light, for the most part. The Ghoul stars reputation is absolutely horrific. No, William, it's not really the ghetto of the Imperium. Okay, so the Astronomicon goes out so far. Okay, the Astronomicon goes out so far. Once you start getting to the edges of the ability of the Astronomicon to be seen, that is where you get places like the Halo stars, the Ghoul stars, places such as that.
The bones of these kingdoms have survived through history and will continue to do so.
No, Mr. Galaxy, why I don't.
Beneath the dust, we may even find stories that are similar to ours.
If there is an STC found, if there is ever an STC found, it would be found in the Halo stars, not the Ghoul stars. Primarily because humanity currently, as of right now, has no real way to get there to see if there's anything that they have uncovered. And going there for humanity is extremely dangerous to begin with.
The Halo stars are merely a stage on which dramas are playing out in private.
Mm-hmm.
The music of the orchestras may never be heard by my kind, but perhaps they will be heard by those who live beyond the veil of the Halo stars.
I don't know this
In
one
the
in my
galactic
head.
northeast of the Segmentum lies Neogeddon, a dead world, a doomed world,
I'm trying to remember if I know
left
this
void
somewhere.
of all life as a warning. A warning that says clearly, do not come here. There is no atmosphere here. The sands of Neogeddon rip across dunes that are lifeless skeins of sand and dead necrodermis. The dunes hide a great beast. This tragic world is where the vile Catan, the deceiver, fell into its eons-long slumber, left there to never be roused again. Human traders and Mechanicus explorators have landed on this broken world and have all been lost. Records clearly show the subsurface megastructures built after the war in heaven, and I cannot begin to fathom the horror that those humans beheld on that world.
Okay, so a good question was just asked. What exactly is an STC? In the Dark Age of technology, Golden Age technology, however you want to say it, what was savagely curtailed by the Age of Strife. It's been about 15,000 years since someone made an STC, probably closer to 16 to 17,000. But an STC was an artificial intelligence that contained within it the sum knowledge of all humankind. It also had a broad variety of blueprints for machines. It would essentially tell you how to build a machine that could build pretty much anything. To give you an idea of how absolutely vital and just outright valuable they are to the Imperium. An STC fragment was found that had the blueprints for a factory inside of it, which when assembled made kitchen knives. And when this fragment was sold to the Mechanicus, they bought it. They bought this fragment from the rogue traders that found it in planets, plural. They bought the STC fragment from those that had it in planets, because money is not enough of a value. That's why if even rumors of an STC being found are heard, the Mechanicus will spare legitimately no expense in order to find it. The finding of a single intact STC could turn the Imperium into a paradise quite literally within months.
Deceiver was cast down, its vile sentience shattered.
Hi, Apple.
Though, as we know, the Deceiver would ultimately return. The world remains lifeless. Its empty halls will forever guard the containment vessels.
I never did learn what happened to the Deceiver. It bears some investigation. Thank you, Mr. Galaxy Wide. Do you think the Halo devices might be how the Perpetuals came into being? How the fuck did the Emperor not have a collection of STCs? Unknown, Mr. Galaxy Wide. Unknown. That's one of the questions for the ages. STC for a 2006 Toyota Corolla with a VTEC? Why?
That hold fragments
Galaxy
of
Wide.
the deceased god. Dynasties entombed themselves as wardens and vigilant guardians, though contact with them is no longer possible. Perhaps their bodies are now inert or corrupted. The Deceiver may reappear from this grave world, draped in the black of the void, seeking to sow war and conflict once again.
Nobody would be surprised.
May we, Necrons, never forget the price that we paid. I hope all life in the universe sees the screaming storms as a warning and leave the world as it should be, alone and silent.
Garen.
To the galactic southeast, there is a small world that is rarely visited and of little regard. The world is Garen. It is unimportant compared to other worlds that the Imperium of Man controls. It is a world of rolling hills and vast sky-splitting plains. The oceans seethe with monstrous life. Great leviathans wage eternal campaigns beneath the waves.
The planets in the Imperium have a lot of variety. Thank you, Troy. With the technology, a chip the size of a grain of dust could hold a petrobyte, which means you could breathe in the blueprints of a cool spaceship. This is extremely true. This is ridiculously true. Xander, I wouldn't be surprised if the Emperor has a stash of STCs hidden away from him. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Thank you, Troy.
Just as the humans who live here wage their own wars. Garen is scarred and cratered by the wars that have been fought here. The Astartes on this planet, the regents of Garen, are enormously proud of their small world. The world weathers many storms, and though, in the grand scheme of things, it may not be as important as Terra,
Few are.
it is still worth remembering. My agents do not collect the humans from Garen, as I believe that the universe has greater plans for them.
Zach.
Good luck to the humans who fight so bitterly for their world, because the more they fight, the more the orcs are drawn to them.
True.
There is darkness here, but also a fair measure of light. A light that flickers in the strip lumens of the granite mountains of Garen's many continents.
Vostroya, home of the Vostroyan firstborn. Trazen kidnapped a lot of them. It is what it is. Oh. This is legitimately the most relaxing thing I've seen in a week.
In the heart of the Segmentum is the world that birthed the Grey Lady. The hammers here have been at work for more than 10,000 years.
Yep.
The ice winds scour the rugged, frozen landscapes, and from the ice, great cities break through the storms and pierce the skies. Frozen banners flutter against the buildings, causing cascades of ice to rain onto the snow-covered streets below. The streets of Vostroya.
Yes, the majestic beards.
One of the longest-standing imperial worlds, this honorable planet has produced billions of soldiers and even more machines. The mountains are vast. They house never-ceasing factories that ring out with the songs of the hammer. Bullets, bandages, and reinforced hypercoils for Knight-class Mechanicus Titans all come from here. In my gallery, you can find the original copy of Treatise Elati, the book that was written by the Grey Lady. The Grey Lady is an imperial saint who lived on this world. She is the enigmatic mother to all the children of Vostroya. She is both fable and fact. Acting in a manner of pure independence, Vostroya denied soldiers and valuable resources to both the Emperor of Mankind and Horus during the heresy. After the Horus heresy ended, the guilt of Vostroya's refusal to help the Emperor led to the creation of the Firstborn, a group of soldiers that are fiercely devoted to their traditions, perpetually indebted to the Imperium, and proud of their long-standing affiliation with the Mechanicus. Stubborn to a fault, and staggeringly fond of curled, pointed facial hair.
That's as about outstanding beard you have there, sir.
These brute.
Thank you, Troy. I do think that during the Crusade, a few planets purposely entered the warp rather than be captured. Stasis pod and pre-strife humans, GW will never use. To be honest, Troy, that is not a far-off assumption, okay? That is not a far-off assumption. So, I can't remember which Primarch it was that came to Vostroya and gave them pretty much an option. You're going to give us your firstborn, or we're going to take everything to make up for your sin of not supporting us during the time of need. And the world leaders of Vostroya pretty much were like, we're just going to sit back and see what happens, see who comes out on top, you know?
Roots stayed on a world
Gilliman.
that no one should
I thought it was either Gilliman or the Lion.
The Vostroyans offer their firstborn children to the Astra Militarum, and the rest work tirelessly in the manufactorums.
Couldn't remember which one.
Vostroya is a world of culture and history that stands out even amongst the thousands of equally impressive human-settled worlds.
Yeah, the Lion probably would have deleted them. You're right. Site of the 12th Black Crusade, everybody. Site of the 12th Black Crusade. Or, as I like to call it, Abaddon getting his shit rammed in by the Imperial Navy for over a decade.
Eastward, there is a border forged by the humans. The border delineates the entrance to one of their hundreds of sectors. Composed of 8 subsectors, the Gothic sector is remarkably interesting. In the Bayon Moor subsector, a device of ours was found on a planet the humans refer to as Fularis. It was on this lush, verdant world that the will of eternity was laid to rest after her service in the war in heaven. Not a being, but a ship.
Yep.
A mighty ship, a black stone fortress. This flying destruction matrix was laid to rest after its service against the vile Catan. Her engines burned for their last time as she broke the atmosphere. It is well documented in my vaults that the ship's captain stayed with her, so she would not be alone in the eternities in which she would rest. The will of eternity landed in a dense jungle. and it was there that she would stay, and should have stayed, until Abaddon the Despoiler appeared. Abaddon somehow located the Will of Eternity
Hacks.
and, in an unforgivable insult to all Necron kind, reactivated the ship and murdered her sleeping captain.
Abaddon in this artwork looks like I think he should look like. He looks like a nerd. A tomato left out too far along in the sun. Somebody that essentially is trying too hard, which is exactly what he's portrayed as in every sort of media that doesn't flatter him to the point of incredulity, just insanity, okay? It's just, no.
After Abaddon reactivated the fortress, he destroyed Fularis for no other reason than pure spite. That ship was used in the start of the Gothic War and the 12th Black Crusade. The Gothic sector was blocked from all contact with the outside galaxy by a powerful warp storm. The worlds and their inhabitants fought a vicious campaign against Abaddon and his soldiers. Millions perished as a result of Abaddon's ambitions. The Imperium fought valiantly, and Battlefleet Gothic waged a campaign of extermination against Abaddon, the Eldari, and human pirate forces. The Gothic War spanned 20 human years. What was unknown at the time, however, was that the Gothic War was nothing more than a decoy, a distraction that was set in motion so that Abaddon could steal the Will of Eternity.
I mean, it's not like it was a big surprise that he got a couple of Blackstone fortresses. I mean, he wound up taking more than one of them back to the warp with him and back into the Eye of Terra. Thank you, Mr. Galaxy-Wide. Rule number 1, unless you are Cain, Dante, or I, Kato Sicarius, don't screw with Necron tech. No one's going to listen to that, Galaxy-Wide. No one is going to listen to that at all. Everyone is that stupid. Come here.
In the northwest region of the Segmentum, there is another invisible human border. Across that border lies the Scorus sector. The Scorus sector is alive with industry, war, poverty, and intrigue. And most importantly, an abundance of notable history. Scorus was named after a favored captain of a word-bearer legion, a name given by Lorgar himself.
Yep.
This sector was at war before I awoke.
Scorus sector. If there's a war going on, there's at least 2 going on in the Scorus sector at that moment. Thank you, Xander. Imagine what secrets are actually buried with that ship. That the Necrons deemed it necessary to retire it, that it was obviously more than a simple Blackstone fortress. True, but at the same time, there's other Blackstone fortresses throughout everywhere else as well. There is a Blackstone fortress out in the Halo stars that a certain man of iron is currently calling his residence.
And it played no small part in the history of our galaxy. It is the home of the tales of Battlefleet Gothic, and truly, it is a wonder to behold. In this busy, secretive zone sits the capital, Justus Majoris.
Eustace.
A hive world that governs this vast space. The skies of the world weep acid rain onto the bowed heads of billions of indentured workers serving their masters. Masters who work in desperate need to keep the population controlled and producing. Scorus has been a victim of rebellions, gang wars, chaos outbreaks, and, more recently, a particularly relentless fungal infestation. In my sub-lecture series, Notable Imperial Inquisitorial Assets, I highlighted 2 particular inquisitors. One was Gideon Ravenor, and the other, his former master, Gregor Eisenhorn. It is in the Scorus sector that Eisenhorn and his team earned their bones. Apologies, that is a human phrase, and I really must expunge it from my dialogue banks. It was amidst these rebellions and outbreaks that Eisenhorn proved himself. A true hero. He stepped beyond the realms of considered morality and did what needed to be done.
Although the Order of Malleus would still love to have a lot of words with him. In fact, yeah.
Eisenhorn saved a whole city, and perhaps even the entire world.
The world.
Since then, he has not been seen in some time. But I know he is still out there somewhere, and I know that Ravenor, a Terric Alpha Great Psyker, knows where Eisenhorn is. Scorus will remain a battleground and a hyper-industrial hub where billions of humans scratch out a living on acid-eaten streets. I wish them all the luck in their lives of mediocrity.
Stygius Sector. This is home. The Stygius Sector is home to my favorite damned regiment of Imperial Guard. Bitches! We're going to learn about the Morian Iron Guard now. The best. The best. The absolute damn best.
To the galactic north, there is a world that may yet set itself ablaze with rebellion. This is Morian, home of the Morian Iron Guard.
Yes!
From underground barracks and redoubts, the elegantly dressed soldiers of Morian press on, playing songs of honor and courage with their pipes and bugles. Morian is yet another grim and dark planet. Its populace lives in perpetual night, for the planet barely spins, causing half the world to be a dark, depressing nightmare, and the other half to be a burned, ash-filled wasteland. I will never understand why humans are so insistent on settling upon these cursed worlds. Nothing grows in the wasteland except human arrogance. Do not be fooled by their well-maintained uniforms, with their crimped shirts, neat caps, and fine epaulets. The Morian Iron Guard are well known in propaganda. However, this propaganda does not mention that these soldiers spend half their time crushing on world rebellions.
Yeah,
they are not much more than enforcers for the world's ruling elite, ensuring that their grip on power is never threatened. If the populace could simply accept their lot as being servants on a world of equal day and night, then the Iron Guard could leave and do something productive. The world does, however, stand defiant. A war happened here,
yeah.
though many have forgotten it.
Listen to
the
this.
Battle of Morian. Like many human betrayals, this one was caused by covetous greed. A cabal of humans on Morian turned their attention to the Dark Gods, who are always happy to promise rewards in exchange for innocent blood. In the caverns beneath Morian's second city, these greedy lords finished their ritual and brought chaos to Morian.
Nurgle.
Many other worlds would have fallen, not Morian. Eventually, the Loyalists were forced to retreat to the Tetrarchal Palace. and it was here that the Morian Iron Guard would make its last stand against the forces of chaos. Far above the burning skies of Morian, the Imperium of Man had witnessed the many battles. A coven of psychers had set about counteracting the power of the ritual performed beneath the surface of Morian. Just as the remaining heroes of Morian were about to fire their final shots, the coven's plan came to fruition.
This is
The
the best.
flame in the sky vanished, and the surviving Morians watched as the demons they were about to be slaughtered by were vanquished before their eyes. And thus, after an unexpected savior appeared from above, Morian lived, and still lives. Though the world's capital remains fortified, ever watchful over its soldiers, war came here and lost, and Morian remembers.
Yes, it does. So the flavor of chaos that came to Mordia was Nurgle in nature. Not only did the Mordian Iron Guard hold the planet, when the Astartes and Imperial Guard came to relieve them, they were kind of surprised that the Iron Guard wasn't just holding on to the planet, they were actively driving the chaos infestation off of the planet. Mordia is baller as hell. No one has done a Cherub lore video yet. Yes, Troy, and for good reason. No, Cherubs, no Cherubs. Cherubs don't exist in my reality. Thank you, Troy. Oh, okay.
There are other actors on the stage of the Segmentum Obscurus. Ancient, emotional, and artistic beings. The Eldari from Imloc, with its timeless works of art and engines of Vorul, to Sith and its Harlequin courts. The Eldari hold many worlds, and their influence is vast. South of the Halo Stars sits a band of Eldari worlds. I do not believe they do anything by mistake, but I do not know why they settled here. Perhaps their gods simply wanted them beset on all sides by humans, orcs, and even Tyranids. The Exodite worlds in this segmentum are few, yet they are exceptionally interesting. The Harlequins, those mysterious, unusual performers, reside on Sith, waiting to spread their music to other worlds and somehow know what will happen, what will come to pass. Each of the Eldari worlds here house thousands of artists, warriors, and creatives. The dancers wave and weave amidst bone singers, whose songs change the fabric of reality and reforms their wraithbone into perfect works of art.
Oh boy.
From their vaulted halls and living space stations, the Eldari watch the space around them, intervening, acting, or simply witnessing. Perhaps this is all a launch platform for some grand battle yet to begin.
Vorsk. Oh boy. Guys, I'm going to step up for a second. I'm going to grab myself something to drink, and I'll be right back. This, so far, has been everything that I expected and more. I hope you're enjoying it as well. 1 second. 2 minutes, guys. Yep. Almost did that. Bloop. Bloop. There we go. Well, I'm doing it again. There we go. I am boomering it. There we go. Be right back, guys. Even chat has been calm. I know. It's calm. Everybody's just sitting here enjoying this. As there's so much to enjoy with this. Oh, stop yelling. Stop yelling. Stop yelling. going to take long. I had to grab something to drink. I am a thirsty man. Hello, Keto. Watch out. All right. Yeah. Well, there's no battle going on. You don't even feel like summarizing more? Well, we're going to finish more up soon, guys. We're going to finish more up very, very soon. But, oh, God. What am I going to do if fan uploaded? I have no idea. You know what, Lebo? That is a very good point. No, I don't want that beer you owe me. You don't owe me a beer. Ronnie, you bet the $5 that all the times the Eldari are seeing the future was just Zeus messing with them? Yeah. What Segmentum is Armageddon? Segmentum's, oh, God. Segmentum Solar, I believe. It's one of the closer... The reason why such a huge response got sent to Armageddon was because Armageddon was that close to Terra itself. It was in within a couple of warp jumps. Here we go. Vorsk.
To the galactic west lies yet another human border. This border is lined with ships that serve the many armies that live in the Vorsk subsector. A place of true bedlam. The worlds in the Vorsk subsector are tumultuous, to say the least. This small subsector has seen some truly memorable wars. Castellix, a brutalized world, conquered and ruled over by the ever-tiresome Iron Warriors of the 4th Legion.
Excuse me?
The 4th enslaved every soul and kept the population in chains, working them to death. Ionis, an imperial farming world, a true vision of peace with its rolling hills, gentle breezes, and decent humans. The continents flash gold from orbit, filled with the crops that feed so many humans.
Oh, yeah.
Gemin Prime, another imperial world. A world of deep core miners. Beneath
rock and stone.
The basalt slabs of the continents, the humans here toiled and extracted resources that were vital to the operation of the Imperium. The cities were squat, low beasts that housed millions of proud, peaceful men and women. Obetrus, the rogue.
I would love to know where they got all these pictures of planets, because each one they have found has been absolutely beautiful and fit the exact world they were talking about. The ones that I know of, at least. Some of these worlds I haven't known of. I have no problem saying I don't know everything, guys.
A world that obeys no gravitational commands and goes where it pleases. This world of dark forests and darker beasts flies silently through the galaxy and houses mystifying beings with unknown goals.
Great!
Cyrith, whose skies are black from the discharge of billions of crude human weapons.
Yep.
The Mechanicus employed their vast ships to flatten the hills of the world and built it into nothing more than a firing range. Everything must be tested somewhere, and because of this, long gone are the raging waterfalls and 1,000-mile rivers with their unique life. The world has devolved into a flat testing area.
Thanks, Mechanicus.
For humanity's most prized toys of war. Pseudopol is the brother world to Cyrith, a world of pylons, antenna and communication equipment, built and owned by the Imperium. Every communication in the subsector passed through the million offices and listening stations on Pseudopol. The inefficient human radars and dishes were hidden within the vast mountain ranges of the planet. Then there was the world from which this sector takes its name, Vorsk. Vorsk was another imperial world that boasted a population of well over 4 billion. They lived in haunting dark streets with thousands packed into a single building. No power to anyone, with the exception of the welders and builders who made equipment for the other worlds in the sector. And of course, Scythia, one of my preferred tomb worlds. The Ovarak dynasty slept here, buried deep beneath the soils, their pyramids turned into wooded mountains by the passage of time, waiting to bring the frenzy of perfect war to the stars once more.
There you go.
Orcs. These
Love that
primitive
turn. Love that turn.
brutes offer little to the galaxy.
No.
And evidence of this is found in the ruins of the Vorsk subsector. The Orcs conquered the Iron Warriors' world of Castalax, slaughtering the slumbering millions on Scythia and destroying every other world in the Vorsk subsector. Vorsk is now an Orc subsector, ruled over by tyrannical war bosses. Just another tragedy in a galaxy at war.
Medusa, home of the Iron Hands.
Near the Eye of Terror, a dark, polluted planet floats above a mixture of frigid icescapes and volcanic mountains.
It's easy enough to say, okay, so the Eldar are the Eldar. The Orcs, however, used to be the Krorks, which Trajan most definitely would have fought at one point in his life.
This world...
So, the Eldar are kind of like, they're exactly where the Necrons really want them to be. The Orcs are just a pathetic example of what the Necrons themselves fought at one point. The Orcs, even the biggest Orc right now, Gazgul, would be tiny compared to what Trajan was used to seeing out of that same species.
Is none other than Medusa. An unpredictable world. The tectonic plates are always shifting, creating new oceans, rivers, and mountain ranges. The environment on Medusa is incredibly harsh and proves difficult for humans to exist on.
But exist on it they
The
do.
humans that live on Medusa are weathered by these difficulties. They are strong people who expel weakness or sickness from their population. Those who are unfit voluntarily surrender themselves to the wasteland, sacrificing their own lives so that they are not wasting any of the scarce resources that could be used by the healthy. It seems fitting that on a world where only the strongest can survive, that the Primarch Ferrus Manus eventually emerged from the mountains of Medusa.
I have been told by quite a few people we share some similarities. I'm just saying. I've been told by quite a few people that we share a few similarities, me and old Ferrus Manhands. Just saying. Thank you, Troy. You said to think the old ones would have their weapons, us included, work well together and have an instinctive hatred of Necrons and Satan. You'd think that. Galaxy? Thank you, Troy. Galaxy, he's just a second cousin. Don't worry about it.
A capsule crashed into Karashi, the highest mountain on Medusa. The impact was...
I'm hoping to go to Warhammer Fest next year. It'd be nice. It would be really nice. I'm hoping to go to Warhammer Fest next year. And if I do, and there's a cosplay event, I'm going to grab a bathrobe and be Ferrus Manhands. I'm just going to say it.
Was so forceful that the explosions were felt across the entire world, toppling mountains and causing tidal waves of ash. Inside of this capsule was Ferrus Manus,
Ferrus
Primarch
Manhands
of the Iron Hands. With the devastation and transformation of his arrival, Ferrus Manus awakened something that had been sleeping beneath the mountains.
Oh!
He emerged from Karashi, a fully grown man, and spent his youth rampaging across the northern reaches of this world, conquering tribes and slaying beasts. His legacy tells of his hunting of the great beast Azenorth, a vast killing machine that was said to be made of living steel. There were many stories of Azenorth murdering civilians on Medusa and being known as an unkillable beast. During Ferrus Manus's travels, he encountered Azenorth atop an active volcano. He lured the great worm towards the mouth of the volcano and drowned Azenorth in the magma. Ferrus Manus had done the unthinkable. He destroyed a being that was thought to be invulnerable. As Ferrus Manus drowned Azenorth, however, the worm's living steel coated his arms. This is where he earned the name the Iron Hand. I am convinced that Azenorth was a grand conqueror worm, seeded on Medusa by the world's lord to guard his sleeping subjects. If this is the case, the Primarch destroyed one of our greatest machines in single combat. Not bad for a human.
Not bad at all.
I do have a theory. There is a conqueror worm in my galleries. They have interstitial relay mechanisms which study their opponents and transfer any useful information, including genetic sequences and DNA coding.
Give me Ferrus Manus back.
It is therefore possible that beneath the ruins of Medusa, there may be a terminal which contains the genetic code of Ferrus Manus.
Oh!
Ferrus Manus was a remarkable hero, an incredible warrior, and an unmatched artisan. However, his story does not end on Medusa.
No, it ends on Istvaan.
In the northeastern corner of the Segmentum, roughly 37,000 light-years from Caliban, you will find a dim, silent star at the edges of our galaxy. In all wars, there are locations of strategic importance. Sometimes these locations stand as monuments to war. This small, meager star pulls 8 worlds in its orbit. The star has no name, and that is fitting. This sector is the birthplace of the grandest of human tragedies. This is the Istvaan system. Dead worlds and void exposed hulks dwell here, a silent testimony to a monumental betrayal. There are many important names in the Horus heresy. Every Primarch was involved.
Yes.
And many of them were here, on the world of Istvaan V. A tortured world, butchered and silent for millennia. Beneath the dead soil and blasted wreckage lie the lost and forgotten soldiers of this terrible world.
The Ancient awaits.
Is no atmosphere, no life, only the dead. Istvaan III was first conquered by the Raven Guard, the sons of Corvus Corax, and the world was brought into the realm of the Imperium, eventually being shown the imperial truth. At the same time, the Dark Gods had begun poisoning the mind of Horus.
Thanks, Erebus, you prick. Troy, GW, take notes. A Necron Astartes Legion? Wait, what? Okay. I don't think that would work too well, considering the second one was born, they'd immediately go crazy and try to kill themselves.
Who eventually came to corrupt his Primarch brothers, Fulgrim, Mortarion,
Fulgrim
and
didn't need it.
Angron.
Fulgrim didn't need corrupting. He was already being corrupted with a layer blade. Mortarion, he was just a rollover. And Angron didn't need convincing. He needed so little convincing to betray the Emperor, it was stunning. I wonder if this is what Trazyn actually knows about them.
The governor of István V, Vardus Pral, became a rebel against the Imperium, and over the course of years began a quiet crusade against the loyalists of the Coral City, eventually leaving it ravaged. Burned black by the vast weapons of war, the ruins stand as a grave mark to the betrayed. The corrupted Primarchs planned to expunge the Loyalists from their legions as well, and they launched their first wave of attacks. Captain Saul Tarvitz, a well-respected member of the Emperor's Children, had been ordered to be a key part of the assault on István III. Captain Tarvitz, however, suspected something was awry and changed places in the Imperial fleet with a member of the Emperor's Children at the last second. Upon inspecting the ship, he discovered virus weaponry had been loaded into the cannons and suddenly realized what was about to unfold. Tarvitz went to the surface of István III and warned the Loyalists that the world was going to be attacked. His bold and selfless actions saved hundreds of lives.
Thousands.
Horus was not finished, however.
No.
He virus-bombed the planet, which turned all living things into a flammable compound. Then, being the vile creature he is, Horus dealt his killing blow by firebombing the planet and setting it ablaze. The firestorm killed 16 billion people and destroyed countless cities. István III was the first world that Horus would kill.
Not the last.
The surviving Astarte...
Not even really the first, to be honest with you. He had done it to a few other places before then, and he had waged some very effectively brutal compliances, but he was known for being good at it.
Who had been warned by Tarvitz, emerged from their bunkers and witnessed the enormity of the betrayal. Disregarding orders, Angron led the charge as he and the World Eaters attacked the survivors, killing all that remained. Amidst this slaughter, however, one man remained. He was entombed in a living machine, a dreadnought. That man was Rylanor the Ancient.
Super Ultra Giga Chad 9000 Rylanor. Ultimate Baconator Edition, supersized.
He was on István III in his dreadnought as the attacks began. After the brutal atrocity occurred on István III, Rylanor waited for 10,000 years, plotting his revenge against Fulgrim. Rylanor lured his vile father back to the world and would have his chance at vengeance. He detonated one of the last remaining virus bombs in an effort to eradicate his own father. His attempt was unsuccessful, but he did manage to injure Fulgrim's vain pride. Rylanor the Ancient died on István III, the last victim of the original betrayal. But perhaps his weakening of Fulgrim will allow another to cut the head from that pathetic, writhing serpent.
I'm glad that Trazyn agrees with me on how much of a shit that Fulgrim is. Thank you, Troy. Ferrus Manus is converted into a half Necron. Think of the many, and it suits the Iron Hand's lore, like the Necron he seeks his meat back but can't. This is true. Fulgrim, thank you, Troy, and Fulgrim is an absolute ass. Isn't Niconia still alive? I don't think Shadowkin's still alive. I don't think he's still alive. I can't remember when he died, but I'm pretty sure he like the only Space Marines that were alive during the Horus Heresy, they're now entombed in dreadnoughts.
I hope to someday recover the now lifeless, rusted dreadnought that houses the bones of that fearless son of the Emperor. His steel coffin will be a monument to the power of revenge and justice. For Rylanor is a human we should all remember and respect.
Yes, damn right.
In the blackened, dead streets of the Coral City, a few tenacious and proud men led a doomed stand against those who had betrayed them. These heroes deserved better.
Yes.
The tales of Istvaan V have been largely expunged by both the Inquisition and the Ecclesiarchy for reasons of control.
Yep.
But there are bones on Istvaan still. My gallery and containment vessels are filled with relics from this tragic world, and the most complete record of the betrayal of Istvaan III can be found in my Horus Heresy gallery. Istvaan III changed the course of our galaxy's history. Its consequences are significant and echo throughout all of time. The Battle of Istvaan III was the first war in the heresy, but it was not the last.
Istvaan V.
A short distance from Istvaan III is another tomb world. The site where the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard chapters were almost completely exterminated. Istvaan V. After Istvaan III, the Loyalists had been purged from the legions which were devoted to Horus. The Emperor sent the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard to bring his treasonous sons to bear for their crimes.
Yeah, he would be alive.
These Astartes would land on Istvaan V and bring the light of the Emperor's wrath upon the Death Lords, the Emperor's children, the World Eaters, and the Sons of Horus. Or, as they had once been known, the Lunar Wolves. In a magnificent collaboration, the Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Word Bearers, and Alpha Legion were to provide assistance to the Loyalist Astartes. These legions had, however, already sworn themselves to Horus's cause, and it was they who would stab the Loyalists in the back on Istvaan V.
Yep.
Nearly 30,000 traitors had spent weeks fortifying the world against the inevitable bombardment that was to come. The poisoned, fallen sons of the Emperor stood eagerly awaiting their Loyalist brothers. The skies were turned black by the falling drop pods and lander craft, and the Loyalists began their strike on the world. As the Loyalists waged their war of blood, the allies of the Loyalists set their betrayal in motion. Witnessing the attack on the unsuspecting Raven Guard and Salamanders, ferrus Manus finally realized that he had walked into a trap.
Yep.
It was here that ferrus Manus and Fulgrim engaged in a historical battle, each wielding the weapons they had once forged for each other. After a fierce struggle, ferrus Manus held his blade to Fulgrim's neck. But in a moment of desperation, Fulgrim drew the demonic lair blade and stopped ferrus Manus from striking him. In the end, the will of the lair blade had overcome Fulgrim as he decapitated his own brother, fully succumbing to the dark gods. To punctuate the totality of Horus's betrayal, Fulgrim delivered the head of ferrus Manus to Horus himself. On Istvaan V, the Imperium learned the true depth of the heresy. Corax had been saved by his sons after being terribly wounded. Ferrus Manus had been killed by his own brother.
The lore inaccuracies in here I love, because this is what people would see. This is what Trajan the Infinite would know. This is what he would actually know. He wouldn't know that Fulgrim had been possessed by a demon. He wouldn't have known that. There would have been no way for him to know. And yes, Ronnie, I'm still pissed that they did that to his plot line as well, okay? I'm still pissed that they did that to his plot line.
And Vulcan had vanished. Though, as we have learned throughout the Horus Heresy, Vulcan lives.
Yeah, Vulcan lives.
The István system is a place best left alone. The stories that began here are unfinished. Fulgrim is still out there, reveling in degeneracy, somewhere in the war.
Yeah.
What a shame that he couldn't be more like my Fulgrim, who still has so much to learn.
Oh, God.
And might yet reclaim the title of the Emperor's child. The sons of Ferrus Manus have not forgotten the murder of their father, and perhaps time will give them a chance at revenge.
Yeah.
The reverberations from István are complex. It is a page in a novel that is inked in blood.
Mm-hmm.
What happened on István V was a turning point for the history of the galaxy. Tragedy and betrayal are the messages entombed in the István system. Messages that humanity should not forget.
But have, over and over again, over and over again. Caliban.
North of Medusa lies the destroyed, shattered world of Caliban, the former home of the Primarch Lion L. Johnson. Caliban was a world of gnarled, darkened forests, filled with animals and beasts, worthy of only the greatest hunters. The beasts were twisted and changed by the powers of the warp that leaked from the Eye of Terror, making them vicious monsters. Caliban was inhabited by a band of honorable knights who sought to do good on the world. This group of knights was known as the Order.
And seriously, out of all the legions, I think that the Dark Angels, which Lionel Johnson was the Primarch of, I think it has some of the best Legion lore prior to Homeworld lore, with the exception of Nostromo, and that's that's it.
When they encountered the young Primarch, they thought he was a beast, but they stayed their blades and brought him to their civilization after realizing he was not a beast, but a man. And every man can be a soldier.
Yep.
It was here that he forged a bond with his counterpart, Luther. Over time, Luther mentored the Lion and brought him under his wing. The two eventually grew to be brothers. The brothers fought side by side for years against the beasts of Caliban.
Troy, they are not the knights who say knee, okay? They're just knights of the Order. They're not the knights who say knee. They may be the knights who say zippy zippy doo bang, but that's neither here nor there.
And through their tenacity, the two oversaw the growth of the Order. They ultimately convinced the humans on Caliban to join the First Crusade against the great beasts. Led by the tactical genius of the Lion, the humans of Caliban had purged the world of the chaos-tainted monsters in 10 Terran years. It was after this crusade that the Lion was named Supreme Grand Master of the Order. From the Order, the Dark Angels were formed. They were named from an ancient Calibanite legend.
No, Sasha, he's not.
Of dark-winged angels coming from the skies to save the meek and the poor. Unbeknownst to the lion, Luther quietly grew jealous of his elevation.
The
to
lion's
supreme
eternal
Grand
search for a
Master.
shrubbery.
It was this jealousy that would lead to betrayal and war between the sons of Caliban.
Okay, so again, this is, I think the way that they're writing this is from Trajan's perspective. The reason that the lion eventually betrayed, was betrayed by Luther has parts to do with jealousy, but it also has a lot to do with the lion being completely socially awkward. If you did something the lion didn't expect, if you made the lion look like less than the absolute supreme omnipotent being that he projected himself to be, you were then on his shit list, especially if you were a dark angel. Most of the dark angels that wound up on Lionel Johnson's annoyance list wound up there because they had done something that the lion didn't know how to socially deal with. In fact, Luther's whole problem, the reason he was, sent back to Caliban in the first place was because he thought about allowing something to happen, but changed his mind and went back and fixed it. It's annoying. The Lion's Eternal... Thank you for that, Troy and Eden. Baron von Eisbrick. How much does the lion know about swallows? Probably a lot, but we don't know how much because he never really talked about him that much. Thank you, Baron. Thank you, Mr. Galaxy Wide. Catachan versus Caliban. Which is more dangerous? Catachan. Catachan, well... Technically Caliban, because there's no atmosphere anymore, because it's a bunch of spinning rocks in space. It's becoming an asteroid field over the last 10,000 years. But when Caliban was at his heyday, the two could have most definitely run against each other, but Catachan would have won out in the end because orcs. And Troy, his mini includes a watcher with a split coconut. That makes a lot of sense, dude. That makes a lot of sense. Mr. Galaxy, why the lion and Perch Robin had the worst social skills out of the Primarchs? No, that would be Lehman Russ and the lion, most definitely. Oh,
Luther's
okay.
envy led to him allowing an assassination attempt against the lion, paving the way for him to gain the lion's power.
Mm-hmm.
On the world of Sarosh, the Dark Angels suffered greatly, and the lion sent Luther and a detachment back to Caliban to find more soldiers. Though not intended as an insult, this caused the resentment inside Luther to grow further.
Well, might not have been intended as an insult, but after 150 years of not allowing him to rejoin the crusade, what do you think would have happened?
The 500 Astartes sent with Luther slowly found themselves devoted to him instead of the lion.
Mm-hmm.
Under the leadership of Luther, the Dark Angels that were loyal to him had morphed into a band of traitors known as the Fallen Angels, or simply the Fallen.
Mm-hmm.
In his quiet fury, Luther had turned Caliban from a land of lush forests into vast grey cities of manufactorums and arcologies.
Mm-hmm.
After the heresy, the lion returned to Caliban and found that, due to his complete neglect of the world, the remaining Astartes had now turned against him.
Yep.
The lion weathered many storms, the beasts, the Horus heresy, but worst of all was that after the siege of Terra, he returned to his home only to be fired on by the guns of the world that he and his brothers had helped forge. The fallen angels had recast the world and now turned it on their father. Ultimately, the lion confronted, dueled, and almost killed his fallen brother, Luther. Luther then employed powers granted to him by the dark gods and wounded the lion.
Yep.
But at this moment, Luther was struck by the weight of his own betrayal and refused to kill his old friend. This enraged the Chaos Gods, and they unleashed their wrath upon Caliban. The world was destroyed by a powerful warp storm. The Dark Angels entered the tower where the Lion and Luther had battled, searching for their fearless Primarch. However, only Luther remained, broken by the enormity of his own betrayal.
Figures.
The Lion was gone. He had been taken into the shadows by a group of strange subhuman creatures called the Watchers in the Dark. The Lion remained there, lost for 10 millennia. What remains of Caliban is not much more than a fortress floating in space. For more than 10,000 years, this fortress, known as the Rock, was all that survived of old Caliban. Until now. It is rumored that in the dense forests of other worlds that a familiar rumbling can be heard. The Lion has perhaps returned to stalk his foes one more time.
And I know what he did to Angron upon the first meeting, and I called it. Did I not call what the Lion would do to Angron if they ever met up? I believe I said it was going to be an ass whooping. It was an ass whooping.
Leaving some to believe that the tale of Caliban is not yet finished.
True. Vigilance, alright.
On the eastern edge of the Eye of Terror, there is a world of great significance. Control of this world has been heavily fought over for hundreds of years. Some understand its importance, others do not. Orcs, Eldari,
yes,
humans,
Sasha.
both loyal and fallen alike, have died here. Even those repulsive Tyranids have launched attacks on this world. Its crust punctured by veins of Noctilith, it is a bleak, ravaged place. The humans here huddle in ramshackle houses, billions living in hive cities that are controlled by the Imperium, the Mechanicus, and the Ecclesiarchy.
I love the
This
sound. I
arid-
love the sound that they're using here. It makes it feel like the whole room is shaking because of these headphones. It's wonderful.
War world is Vigilance. Located within the Nachmund Gauntlet, Vigilance is a vital world, holding one of the few secure warp travel points in the Segmentum. Worlds are defined by their wars and by their soldiers, and few have birthed as many as Vigilance.
This is true.
As the Great Rift spread its hateful mass through our galaxy, it spewed forth nothing other than orcs, of course. From the rift came Speedlord Kruldaka and his green-skinned army of savages. Incapable of taking the world or its cities, Kruldaka took to doing what orcs do best. They turned the wastelands between the hive cities into race strips and set...
Because you gotta do what you gotta do. You have to do what you have to do. Yes, they do, Larry. Yes, they do.
about acting like a legion of belligerent, open-mouthed idiots.
I resemble that remark.
Which is what they are, after all. I do wonder what the Croc would think of their ridiculous, teeth-obsessed kin. In the wake of the rift's opening, the shields of the hive cities failed, leaving them open to attacks from Kruldaka.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to Kruldaka and his hordes, there was a dormant threat lying in wait, and his attacks triggered the well-laid plans of a gene-stealer cult. This cult, known as the Pauper Princes, were enraged that the world they had planned to gain control of was under attack, as they sought to claim Vigilance for their star children. From the undersinks of the hive cities, millions of these mutated monstrosities spewed forth, their claws and teeth chewing the populace from within as the orcs launched total war from the outside.
Ugh.
The rulers knew that they were lost if they did not receive aid immediately, and thus the Aquilarian Council that governed Vigilance called for help from the Emperor. Rabute Gilliman himself decided the world was worth saving and sounded the call to action. Answering his call were Ultramarines, Space Wolves, and the Iron Hands.
True.
The Astartes arrived and brought with them the gene-forged might of the Imperial war machine. Vigilus was one of the first worlds to see full-scale deployment of Primaris Marines of multiple chapters. Against the Orcs and the Gene Stealers, the residents of Vigilus and their Astartes saviors fought valiantly, driving the Orcs into the wastes and forcing the Tyranids into the depths of the ruined Undercities. The Space Wolves led vicious hunting assaults against the Tyranids, seeking out their leaders, yet only finding more colts.
One of the things with the Space Wolves is they have an incredibly heightened sense of smell, so they're literally bloodhounding these things down. It was a wonderful series of books, to be honest with you.
Ultimately, the Gene Stealers and the Orcs were both driven back, but at a terrible cost. One would think that this was enough war for a world. But
Nope.
Vigilus is a bastion world to the humans, and the struggle for control is endless. A corrupt planetary leader named Vanadan the Firebrand had been successfully convincing the people of Vigilus to follow him and the Dark Gods, and to shy away from the Imperium's light. And it is at this time that the prophets of the Eldari foresaw a looming threat. That Vanadan and his followers would ultimately destroy Vigilus. The Eldari could not let this happen, and they dispatched an elite group of warriors known as the Wild Riders of Samhan to do away with Vanadan. These warriors were successful in exterminating Vanadan. However, this assassination only led to more bloodshed. In a display of pure irony, the Imperial forces mistakenly believed that Vigilus was being invaded, and they killed the Eldari warriors, unaware that they were actually there to save the world.
That's mainly because the Eldar did Eldar things and didn't tell anybody the reason why they were there, just left everybody to guess it, and that goes so swimmingly for them every time it happens. I'm not saying the Eldar are terrible diplomats, but they're terrible diplomats. I'm just saying. Yes, Sasha. Look at Armageddon in that one. Yep, true.
One more painful misunderstanding between two races who do not understand each other. One last foe would come for Vigilus, a Chaos Lord who was ordered by Abaddon to take the world. Hearken, World Claimer, a name almost as foolish as Orakan the Diviner.
Trace throwing smoke. Dare you to do chair vid include No, Troy, I'm not doing that. That is wrong on so many fundamental levels.
Brought his malice to bear against Vigilus. The war that came from this conflict is still raging to this day. Many have tried to take Vigilus, but its people are seasoned by war and refuse to sacrifice their control. It may take decades, but Hearken will one day come to learn that no one takes a world like this without bleeding for it.
Huh. Here's the horror story, gentlemen. Here is the horror story, gentlemen. Yeah, One elf in particular made Gazgul Malgul Ruthraka, and that would be our homeboy Eldrad. The shitter.
Some 11,000 years ago, the excess and boredom of the Eldari birthed a being. A sentience that had corrupted countless empires and races. A thing defined by excess, writhing endlessly in the sea of the warp. With Slaaneish's birth, a rift was formed in the material realm of the galaxy. That rift is known as the Eye of Terror. The Eldari worlds that were touched by the formation of the Eye of Terror became known as Crone worlds.
Yep.
These worlds were once the haunts of poets, musicians, and noble warriors that
They became the,
became boiling cauldrons of hatred and mutation. Crone worlds are what the Imperium calls demon worlds. And this is a suitable name.
Extremely.
I have had to cordon off many a Crone world, for the inhabitants are both too numerous and unpredictable. I cannot begin to imagine the treasures that lay unsaved on these worlds.
Mr. Galaxy Wide said, if 5 people were to become Imperial Saints, who would they be in your opinion? Yours are in an order: Kane and Jurgen, Yarick, Eisenhorn, Gaunt, and Cole. Oh, wow. No, Sasha, the reason that happened is quite literal because he couldn't call up a craft world and tell him to fucking move, okay? What 5? I would say Kane is definitely one of them. Eisenhorn, not so much. Gaunt, not so much. Call, definitely not. Oh, God. Pavel. I would see Pavel, the member of the PDF, raised to the status of a saint. Oh, God, what is this guy's name? Andre from Armageddon. I would see him raise to the status of Imperial Saint. Most definitely. Let's see. Yarick, yes. 1,000% yes on the Yarick. I would also see Kane elevated, and I would also see... in the modern Imperium? Yeah, I'd have to go with Erwin Gaunt. Let's go.
By my records,
Not Creed.
there are 9 Crone
Creed's too
worlds
much of a
in the
badass to be a
Cadian
saint.
sector. 3 are dead worlds. The others are home to the horrors of the warp. The Old Ones created a race capable of staggering, unimaginable beauty. And in their malice, they made this race capable of destroying itself through excess. Slaanesh did not entirely destroy the Eldari,
No.
but by consuming so many of their worlds, what was left of their race was merely a shadow of its former self.
I love the hatred for the Old Ones here. Cadia.
Cadia, or as we Necrons refer to it, the Pylon world. Cadia was famous in the Imperium for the quality of the soldiers it produced, and its fate. We had seeded the world with our substrata suppression emulators during the War in Heaven. Located in the most ideal position to be a warden world, Cadia acted as a stronghold against the foul things that emerged from the Eye of Terror. It was a world connected, a link in the chain of the greatest weapon our species ever forged. And that weapon could constrict around the warp and close it off from our reality. Nameless horrors and servants of the Old Ones were destroyed during the time of its employment. after the Silent King's rebellion, after we fell into the Great Sleep, many of the worlds in the chain fell to the rigors of time. Eventually, this pylon world was settled by the humans. That world, that weapon, was Cadia. The soldiers bred on Cadia were the most famous humans in the Imperium. Cunning warriors
I'll admit
who were
that.
humble in their duty. The Cadians stood proud until the end. The servants of the warp knew that one day humanity could gain the knowledge of the pylons. If the pylons were activated, their technology could be turned against the Chaos worshippers, and the dark gods would be reduced to nothing. Abaddon knew he had to stop this, and after a campaign against the forces of the Imperium, known as the 13th Black Crusade, Abaddon crashed the will of eternity into Cadia.
In other words, the 13th temper tantrum, because that's really what it was.
Destroying the ship and ultimately the world. Billions were killed. I was there. I
Yes,
met
he was.
with the Fabricator General of Mars. We had tried to activate the ancient pylons to prevent the destruction of Cadia, but it was to no avail. It was a shame what happened. Cadia was destroyed, coming apart on a geographical level, and suffering total core exposure and fragmentation.
Mm-hmm.
This was all to stop the humans from destroying the warp.
Yeah.
Many of the pylons remain. The Fabricator General has a few in his possession. I do understand why those who are sympathetic to the dark gods would be worried at the prospect of their powers vanishing. It is reasonable to assume that at some point, the humans may activate a smaller version of our device and remove the warp from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps not entirely, but enough to make a difference. In the destruction of Cadia, the forces of chaos martyred and galvanized billions. I have a feeling that this is all merely the beginning of the tale of the Cadian sector.
Yes, I fully believe that as well. Cadia stands.
For, as Cadia stands, so does the Segmentum. For many centuries, the power of the Eye of Terror had been growing. That galactic scar had swelled, its energies changing the universe around it, making travel and communication increasingly difficult. With the death of Cadia and so many other worlds surrounding the Eye of Terror, the warp could not be held back. The million light-year storm of energy that has ripped its way across our galaxy is known as the Great Rift, or the Cicatrix Maledictum.
Mm-hmm.
Spanning from where Cadia once stood to the eastern fringes, this portal stands defiant, its scale almost beyond comprehension. The Great Rift has claimed billions of lives, and its emergence has split the Imperium of Man in two.
Mm-hmm.
Those who dwell on the Soul Sector side of the Rift live in the Imperium Sanctus. The remaining, the countless souls who have been separated from their kin, now dwell in the Imperium Nihilus.
Mr. Galaxy-Wide said, I would like to point out that a small aspect of Horus's soul was separated for his obliteration, and here's the kicker, it was his loyalist aspect. I think you're thinking of Magni Magnus and Janus. Just saying. Confused Grinscoos. Confused Guardsman. You're a Guardsman. You're not an orc. Just saying. Thank you, Mr. Galaxy-Wide.
The beings who live beyond the rift are at the mercy of the creatures that dwell within. leaving countless worlds at risk. Those who worship chaos see it as a sign that their time is here. Those who do not know that war is coming, a new age of terror by the worshippers of darkness. The Great Rift has spread an immense amount of turmoil. It has split our galaxy in two. And there are signs that this is merely the beginning. True stories take time. And the story of the Segmentum Obscurus is millennia in the making. Our galaxy is a tapestry of stories. Betrayal and butchery give way to hope. Hope gives way to barbarism, and the cycle begins again.
Remember, kids, hope is the first step on the way to disappointment.
As the Segmentum Obscurus is a novel that is still being written. For now, I will leave the Segmentum to its own devices. For time is the greatest gift that can be given to the heroes of this embattled region of space. Time heals wounds. It affords us the opportunity to mourn our lost and to rebuild our strength. Strength with which we may face the many horrors of this small, fascinating sector of our galaxy. From the howling manufactorums of Vostroya to the haunted labyrinths of Neogeddon, it remains inviolate against the terrors that assail it. Time controls the fate of all worlds, and the Segmentum Obscurus is only the beginning of this journey.
Guys, I'm letting this music play because it's awesome. This is why I enjoy Warrior Tier, okay? This is why I enjoy Warrior Tier. This is the level of detail, this is the level of experience, the research, and the putting of themselves into a character within the 40K universe that they do so well and have done so well consistently. One of the biggest things that I have known about them since I started watching them is each time I checked them out, I wanted to see more. Each time I saw them, I love this music. You know who you are, you know exactly what I'm talking to when I do this? Yes. Okay. I had to let the music play. Warrior Tier is just one of those groups of people who get together on a topic. One of the best things for me was, one of my first experiences was in the Nurgle video, and I've said it back then and I'll say it now. They put themselves in the perspective of a character. Some people might hear this and be like, oh, no, this, and this are all wrong. No, this is the way that Trazen sees it. This is the way that Trazen would see it. He'd never know why Fulgrim ultimately... He would know through secondhand accounts. He wasn't there on Istvaan V to see Fulgrim behead Ferrus Manus. He wasn't there for that. He would know what came through witnesses to that time period and stories that had been told. He wouldn't know that Fulgrim was possessed by a demon. He wouldn't know that the skull of Fulgrim was given to Horus, which greatly upset him. He wouldn't know that when Lorgar saw what Fulgrim was, Lorgar physically attacked him. He wouldn't know all of that kind of stuff. Exactly, Mr. Galaxy Wide. Exactly. Yes, the Imperium is rude people to Xenos. You know, Necrons are just boomers yelling at the youngsters to get off their lawn. This is true. But being the ferrus manus clone that I am, I do say that every single time they put something out, I know the thought process that goes behind it. I know the level of focus that goes into it. And when I chipped in and said what I said about the various points of the lore, that was just pointing out the difference between what Trazyn would know and what we as readers would know, and people that have been in the lore for a long time know. Exactly, William. Trazyn doesn't know what we know as readers and listeners. Trazyn doesn't know that. And that's the best part about videos like this, because you get the experience of a person within the lore. One of the point of the book around his gallery is that the expeditions are not entirely accurate. The exhibitions are not entirely accurate because he has to compromise between what he knows, what he had, and the presentation. This is true. This is so damn true. There is a full clone of Fulgrim in Trazyn's galleries. There is a full clone of Fulgrim in Trazyn's galleries. Trazyn has so much interesting stuff. Galaxy-wide, I need to check out. There probably is going to be. There probably is going to be, especially if fan released. I'll be checking that out. Guys, X in chat if you thought this was one of their best works, flat out. This was outstanding. It's only a short... Oh, okay. Clongrim, yes. One thing I hope they do. I hope they do too, Ronnie. I really hope they do. The wreck with Lothanese is still floating somewhere in the warp. It's still floating. There's still a chance that that thing could be found. And what happens if it is found? To be honest, you just headcanon the Fulgrim plotline that the demon was in control the whole time. He never broke free, so that's the real Fulgrim escaped the planning. So that's the real Fulgrim that escaped the painting. Yeah. I really hated that. That beautiful book got retconned by a single thing. By a single short story, which pissed me off so badly. Lorgar, Clone will come save us all, was stolen from Primaris Loyalist Emperor's children. Clongrim will find the ghost of Rylanor. Oh, God. Seriously. I want something to happen to where, and this has been said by somebody else, but I'm going to reinforce it. I seriously want Fulgrim to be fighting on a world. Then all of a sudden he gets absolutely gutter checked into the floor by Clongrim, and then a boot comes down from the Legion of the Damned on his chest, and all he hears is the Ancient Awaits. I would love it. What Primarch would you have save Clone Fulgrim? I would have Perturabo save Clone Fulgrim. I would have Perturabo save Clone Fulgrim. Controversial opinion, the Emperor would love Fabius Bile. Yes, he would. Force goes to Rylanor. Fulgrim, you must go into the sun. Into the sun, Fulgrim. Yes. Guys, I'm going to take off. I'm going to go sit in the living room. Talk to the wife. Everything like that. It has been a night. It has been a day. And this is a great way to end it. With something like this. Something that we all look forward to. Myself especially. I look forward to the release of... I look forward to any time that I see anything coming out from Warrior Tier, and I look forward to it with a relish. Because I know that this is a passion project, and I know what goes into putting these things together. Guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Do something for yourself, and remember the Emperor protects. Anti-boomer frying pan is on the way. Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate that. Somebody hit me with something heavy. I don't want to limp away from this. I'll catch you guys next time.